Tell us a little bit more about how industries are using things like robotics and AI and how that's impacting the workforce.
This is going to be a really, really important topic over the next 50 years. There's been all kinds of different studies that have come out. Oxford University did a study. There was McKinsey put out a big study about this that said as much as 30% of the global workforce could be displaced or be forced to majorly reskill themselves as a result, in particular, of AI and robotics. I think in the places, we've always been used to seeing those assembly line pictures of the auto industry in particular, where they had the big machines, the big robots that were moving large pieces of cars and doing the welding and the sparks and all of that stuff. But where it's being used, I think, really in good ways now is being able to take some of the manual labor, repetitive manual labor out of even fine work along an assembly line. There was a good story in the Washington Post 18 months or so ago of a place, a manufacturing facility, I think it was in Wisconsin, that wasn't able to find enough people who could pass drug tests to come in and work in their plant. So they ended up instituting robots. They didn't want to, but they had to as a result. And what they found was that by putting them in with humans, they were actually able to increase their productivity by quite a bit. So they used the robots to do the repetitive physical things, the twisting motions, the lifting motions, the placing motions. And then the humans were there for the fine, detailed work of boxing and putting things together and that fine assembly. So I think they found a good balance between that. I think that's what you're seeing in a lot of places where you can use it in places which you wouldn't traditionally think of. I think some people have tried to do like a fully automated fast food restaurant where they had robots doing all the cooking and assembling of the hamburgers and things that they were selling in the store, how those will relate to restocking retail shelves, how those will relate to not just the autonomous vehicle space, which we could see a full-scale, 20, 30 years from now, it would be very uncommon that you would get into a vehicle that would be driven by a human, probably. So, but in the short run, I think we're finding these places where you don't necessarily try to replace a human entirely, but you identify the tasks which the robot is best suited for. And obviously, all those robots are running on really powerful AI systems for the most part. They being able to sense motion, pressure, all these different things that they have to apply in these cases. But I think the systems that we thought we would have, where you could have like an AI-powered lawyer or a diagnostician, some of those things have not necessarily worked out as well as you'd think, because we haven't been able to write the software, or we didn't have the computing power to make some of those happen. So I think we're limited in some ways by the computing power that we have for AI, which will come over time for sure. So I think robotics in the short run, though, has a lot of places to work where it doesn't require dexterity, because we still have that big advantage as humans, is we have hands and we have fingers and we have thumbs. We're very dexterous, and the robots are not very good at those tasks in general. It's the lower end ones, maybe some of the really high end ones in the lab are getting good at those systems. But I think that the opportunity to look for those, we always thought that there would be this huge retirement boom from the workforce too, and that we would have this workforce shortage. And over time, we will have a shortage of people that will have to be augmented by robotics. We haven't really reached that point yet, but at some point we will. This idea that large numbers of people are going to be replaced by these, maybe, we'll see. And what kinds of jobs will those people move into? History has always shown that we've replaced more jobs than we've taken away from automation, but that doesn't mean that will be the case in the short run. There could be short run periods where substantial numbers of people, accountants, lawyers, radiologists, machines and AI have proven very good at reading MRIs, at reading scans, and identifying things, because they're looking at things on a pixel by pixel basis that a typical radiologist wouldn't necessarily look at. So we'll see. I think it's an exciting time. I love it, because we've always been promised these things, right? We've been promised the flying cars, and those recently started in New York. They now have the air taxi system, which has started to go. I think right now you just have to find those places where you can pick and choose your spots. And the robotic manufacturing industry hasn't really developed and evolved to the degree to which it will. When we have a lot of companies in that space developing pieces, we'll see some real innovations, because so much of it is still happening in the labs and the industrial single-purpose robots. But when we start to have these robots which have a little more dexterity, which are a little more adaptable to different situations, they'll be used quite a bit more.